David lived in a small town with his mother and father. They were not rich, but they were not poor either. They had a little house made of bricks, a small garden where vegetables grew, and an old bicycle that the family shared. David's father was a carpenter. He built tables and chairs for the people in town. His mother baked bread and sold it in the market. They worked hard, but life was always just enough. Never more, never less. David was curious. He always looked at the world around him and asked questions. He would see the mayor of the town drive past in a shiny black car, while old Mr. Clark, who worked from morning until night, walked with shoes that had holes. He would see Lilemele, whose father owned a factory, wearing new dresses every week, while Sarah, the daughter of a farmer, wore clothes that were patched many times. David wondered why. One evening, while his father was repairing a chair, David asked, "Father, why do some people have so much money and some have so little? Don't they all work hard?" His father smiled, put down his tools, and said, "David, listen carefully. Hard work is important, but hard work alone is not enough. Money does not only come to the one who works the hardest. Money comes to the one who understands it. Money comes to the one who respects it and uses it wisely. Some people let money slip through their fingers. Some people grow money like a seed into a big tree. That is why you must learn not only to work, but also to think." David did not fully understand at that moment, but those words stayed in his heart. As David grew older, he saw more examples. Mr. Brown, the shopkeeper, was not very strong. He did not work in the fields or carry heavy wood like the farmers, but Mr. Brown always had money. He sent his children to the city to study. He repaired his house and even built a second one. Why? Because Mr. Brown knew how to use money. He bought goods cheaply, sold them fairly, and always saved a little. His money grew like a small seed in the ground. On the other hand, there was Mr. Clark. Mr. Clark woke up before the sun and worked until night. He carried heavy sacks. He dug the ground. He never rested, yet he never had enough money. Why? Because every time he got money, he spent it quickly. He never saved, never planned, never invested. He thought money was just for today, and tomorrow would take care of itself, but tomorrow never took care of itself. Tomorrow always brought more struggle. David began to understand that money was not just about sweat on the forehead. It was about the mind. It was about choices. It was about how you treat money when it comes to you. One day, David's mother gave him a small silver coin. "This is for you," she said. "Spend it wisely." David was excited. He ran to the market. He saw candies, toys, shiny marbles, and sweet cakes. His heart wanted everything, but then he remembered his father's words, "Money comes to the one who understands it." David thought for a moment. Instead of buying candies that would be gone in one day, he bought a small packet of seeds. He went home, planted them in the garden, and waited. Weeks passed. The seeds grew into green plants. Soon they gave fresh vegetables. David sold some in the market, and with the coins he earned, he bought more seeds. Again and again, he planted, grew, and sold. Slowly, his 1 silver coin turned into many coins. He was just a boy, but he had learned his first lesson about money. If you use money to buy something that grows, money will return to you. If you use money only to buy pleasure for one day, money disappears. Years passed, and David became a young man. He worked with his father, but he also started small businesses of his own. He would buy wool from farmers, spin it into yarn, and sell it in the city. He would save part of his earnings and never spend everything at once. People started noticing. They said, "Look at David. He is not the richest man yet, but he is growing. He is building." But not everyone was like David. His friend Michael, for example, loved to show off. Whenever Micah got money, he bought new shoes, new jackets, and threw parties. People enjoyed being with him for a short time, but when his money was gone, they left. Michael never saved, never invested. He thought money was like water in the river, it would always flow. But one summer, the river dried. Michael was left with nothing. David saw the difference. Money respected the one who respected it. Money left the one who wasted it. One afternoon, an old traveler came to the town. His clothes were dusty, but his eyes were bright. He sat in the market square and began to speak. "I have traveled across many lands," he said. "I have seen kings and beggars, merchants and farmers. Do you know the greatest secret about money?" People gathered around him. "Curious. Asterisk, the old traveler said. "The secret is this. Money is a servant, not a master. If you let money control you, it will destroy you. But if you control money, it will serve you faithfully." David listened carefully. Those words touched his heart. He decided from that day he would never chase money blindly, nor waste it foolishly. He would make money his servant, and he would use it to build a better life, not only for himself, but for others. And so David's journey continued. David's life began to change slowly, like the rising of the sun after a long night. He was no longer just the carpenter's son. He was becoming known as the young man who understood money. People came to him for advice, asking how to save, how to grow, how to plan. But David never thought he was above others. He stayed humble. He remembered the words of the traveler in the marketplace. Money is a servant, not a master. One day, as David walked through the town square, he saw Sarah, the farmer's daughter, selling vegetables. Her face looked tired, and her hands were rough from work. David greeted her kindly. "How are you, Sarah?" he asked. That she sighed and said, "I work every day, but we never have enough. The farm gives food, but it gives no future. When the rain is good, we eat. When the rain is bad, we suffer. Money never stays in our home." David thought for a moment. "Sarah," he said, "may I give you an idea? You are selling vegetables today, but tomorrow you should think of selling seeds. If you sell seeds, people will come back again and again because seeds give more food in the future. If you only sell vegetables, once they are eaten, they are gone. But seeds will make people return." Sarah listened. She took his advice. The next week, She saved a little from her vegetable sales and bought seeds. Slowly, her stall in the market became different. People did not only come to buy food for today, they came to buy seeds for tomorrow. Her money began to grow. This was the power of knowledge, the power of thinking differently about money. David realized that money was not about luck. It was about learning how to use it wisely. Meanwhile, his friend Michael continued to struggle. Michael still loved to spend. He borrowed money from people, promising to return it, but then used it to buy expensive jackets and shiny rings. At first, people laughed and enjoyed his style, but soon they grew tired. They realized he was not trustworthy. When Michael needed help later, no one gave him a coin because they remembered how he wasted what he had. David felt sad for Michael, but he also knew that every person must learn their own lesson. Money teaches the one who listens. If you ignore money's lessons, it will punish you. As the years passed, David's small earnings grew. He bought a small piece of land outside the town. At first, it was empty and dry. People laughed. Why waste money on land with nothing? They asked. But David had vision. He planted fruit trees. He dug a well. Slowly, the land became green. In a few years, the fruits brought profit. What was once empty land became a farm that gave food and money every season. People began to respect David. They said, "He sees what others cannot see. He grows what others ignore." But David also noticed something important. Money could make people jealous. Some whispered behind his back, saying he was lucky, or he cheated, or he was greedy. David understood that when money grows, people will talk. Some will admire, some will envy. This too was the power of money. It could change not only your life, but also the way people see you. One evening, as the sun set, David sat with his father. His father was older now, his hands weaker, his hair gray. He said, "Father, do you think I am doing the right things with money?" His father smiled gently. "David, I am proud of you. You have respected money. You have used it to build, not to destroy. Remember always, money is a tool. If you use it to lift others, it will bless you. If you use it only for yourself, it will trap you. Share when you can. Teach when you can." That is the highest power of money. David carried these words in his heart. He decided he would not only grow for himself, but also help others learn. So he began teaching children in the village simple lessons about money. He told them, "When you get a coin, do not spend all of it. Save a part. When you want to buy something, ask yourself if it will last or if it will disappear tomorrow. If it disappears tomorrow, think twice." The children listened, and slowly families in the town began to think differently. Money started to change not only David's life, but the life of the community. Yet, money also brought new challenges. As David became known, strangers came to the town offering deals. Some promised quick riches if he would invest. Some promised gold if he would join them. But David remembered his father's words. He never rushed. He studied carefully. He asked, "Does this build or does this destroy?" If it was too good to be true, he walked away. Asterisk, asterisk. This saved him many times. Others in the town were not so careful. They gave money to strangers who vanished overnight. They lost their savings and their dreams. David learned that another power of money was temptation if you are not careful. Greed will blind you and you will lose everything. One day, Sarah, now stronger and more confident, came to David. She said, "David, thank you for your advice long ago. My family now has enough. We are even able to send my younger brother to school, all because you told me to think differently." David smiled. "It was not me, Sarah. It was money's lesson. You listened, and money rewarded you." At that moment, David realized something beautiful. The true power of money was not just in what you kept for yourself, but in how you helped others rise with it. And so David's journey with money continued with new trials and new victories. David's story did not end with small fields and coins. His life was only beginning, and money was ready to test him in new ways. The years had passed, and David was no longer the young boy planting seeds in the garden. He was now a man respected by many in the town. His land had grown fruitful. His small businesses had multiplied, and people began to look at him as a leader. But money does not only bring comfort, it also brings responsibility, and sometimes it brings storms. One morning, as David walked through the busy marketplace, he noticed something unusual. Merchants were shouting louder than normal. Farmers looked worried. Prices of food had suddenly risen. Wheat, which was once sold for a single coin, was now to milk, once affordable for poor families, was suddenly too costly. David stopped by Mr. Brown's shop and asked, "What is happening?" Mr. Brown sighed. "The harvest this year was poor. Rain was little, and many crops failed. The farmers are suffering, and because of this, prices are high. People are scared. Some are even hiding their money, afraid to spend it." David understood the danger. When fear spreads, money stops moving. And when money stops moving, families suffer. He remembered his father's words. Money is a tool to build, not to destroy. That evening, David gathered a few townspeople. He said, "Friends, we must not let fear control us. If you stop spending, if you stop buying from one another, then everything will collapse. The farmers need support. The shopkeepers need support. If we work together, we can survive this season." Some listened, some doubted. But David led by example. He used his savings to buy grain in bulk, not to keep for himself, but to share at a fair price with others. He bought fruits from Sarah's farm and gave part of them to families who had nothing. Slowly, people saw his actions and followed. Fear began to shrink and hope began to rise. Money had shown another of its powers. When used wisely, it could calm fear and bring people together. When misused, it could spread panic like fire in dry grass. As weeks passed, Sarah visited David. Again, she said, "David, you are different from others. Most people think of money only for themselves, but you think of the whole town." David smiled softly. "Sarah, I learned long ago that money grows best when shared. A single tree gives shade only in one place, but a forest of trees can cool an entire land. If I grow alone, I am weak. If we all grow together, we are strong." Those words began to spread, and people repeated them in their homes, in the marketplace, and in the fields. But not everyone was happy with David's influence. There were men from the nearby city who came to the town. They were traders with sharp eyes and sharper tongues. They saw that the town respected David, and they thought, if we can control him, we can control the town. One of the traders, a man named Richard, approached David with a smile that did not reach his eyes. "David," he said, "I have heard of your wisdom. I have a deal for you. If you invest your money with me, I promise to double it in 1 year. No risk, only profit. Think of how much more you could do for the town if you had twice the wealth." David looked at Richard carefully. He remembered the traveler's words from long ago. "If it is too good to be true, it usually is," he said calmly. "Thank you, Richard, but I do not trust riches that come too quickly. Money that grows too fast often disappears just as fast." Richard's smile faded. He left angrily, muttering under his breath. But David felt peace. He knew that temptation was one of money's traps. Meanwhile, Micah, David's old friend, was still struggling. He had borrowed from many people, and his debts grew heavier each month. When he heard Richard's promise of doubling money, Michael rushed to him without thinking. He gave Richard the little savings he had, hoping to become rich at last. For a few months, Richard paid him small amounts, making him believe the promise was true. But one night, Richard disappeared from the town with all the money he had collected. Michael was left with nothing once again when he came crying to David. David placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Michael, money is not magic. It is a seed. If you plant it in the right soil, it will grow slowly but strongly. If you throw it in the fire, it will vanish. Learn from this. Do not chase shadows." Michael lowered his head in shame. He wished he had listened earlier. David's wisdom spread beyond the town. People from nearby villages came to ask his guidance. He did not keep secret. He taught them the same lessons he had learned as a boy. Save a little, spend wisely, invest in things that grow, avoid greed, use money to help, not to harm. David was known not only as a man of wealth, but as a man of wisdom. But even wise men face trials. 1 year, a great storm hit the region. Winds tore roofs off houses, rain flooded the streets, and crops were destroyed. Many families lost everything. The town was filled with despair. David looked at the broken houses, the hungry children, and the hopeless faces. He knew this was the greatest test yet. Money was in his hands. He could keep it safe for himself, or he could use it to rebuild without hesitation. David opened his storage houses. He gave food to the hungry. He lent tools to the farmers to start again. He even paid workers to repair houses, giving them jobs instead of charity. Slowly, the town began to heal. And something amazing happened. Because David had helped them in their darkest hour, the people trusted him more than ever. They worked harder, they supported one another, and they promised to return his kindness. His wealth did not disappear. Instead, it grew stronger because It was built on gratitude and trust. David realized a truth deeper than all others. The greatest power of money was not in the coins, the land, or the goods. The greatest power of money was in the hearts it touched. When money was used to lift people, it created loyalty, respect, and love that no thief could steal. Years later, when David was older, he walked through the marketplace once more. He saw Sarah, now a successful farmer, teaching younger sellers how to price their goods fairly. He saw Michael, who had finally learned his lesson, saving small amounts and living humbly but peacefully. He saw children laughing, running through the town square, their bellies full and their futures bright. David smiled, because he knew he had done what his father once told him. He had respected money, and money had respected him. And as he looked at the town he loved, he whispered to himself, "Money is powerful, but love is greater. Money is strong, but wisdom is stronger. Money is important, but only if it serves people, never if it rules them." And so David's story was passed from father to son, mother to daughter, across generations. It was not just the story of a man, but the story of a truth, that money is like fire. If you control it, it will give you warmth and light. If you let it control you, it will burn everything you have. This is the power of money.